G'day guys, welcome back to Survival Worldwide, and this week myself and Robin are joined by a very special guest who is also rocking a very special hat. It is Harry, the ice cream guy from season 4 and 5 of Australian Survivor. Harry, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm going great. What about you?
Doing well, enjoying the new season. What are your thoughts on the new season so far?
I'm really liking it. I'm enjoying all the characters. I'm enjoying that there's definitely fluid gameplay, which is a lot different to last time. So overall, really, really liking it. It just feels fresh. I don't know how to describe it other than that. It feels pretty good right now.
Yeah, I'm really glad to have you on the podcast this week because I think you're one of the you're one of the former castaways who has a very interesting family member that would have made for fun television on Blood vs. Water. And I'm wondering, how would you and Oscar play in the game of Survivor together?
You know what? I think if Oscar was playing right now, they'd find it pretty difficult to vote him out, to be honest with you. I think they'd have a tough time putting his name down, getting him out, because he sort of just like sinks into the background a little bit. But I don't know who I would even take if I actually went on a Blood vs. Water season. There'd be some people that would really be fighting to go with me and other people that would probably just say no. Like Jordan would just probably straight up say no.
No, that's fair enough. I mean, it takes a special kind of person to brave the conditions of the outback, obviously. And I mean, I think one of the great things about Australian Survivor since the pandemic is the outback location, the new location. What have you thought about that? Charters Towers this season?
Loved it. Absolutely loved it. So I loved last time that had the scenery. It was that real red rock. It was pretty amazing. And then for this one to go like a little bit different, it's like more bush. You can see the rivers and like the gum trees and stuff like that. I think it has its own flavor, which I really, really like. And it does, even though it's got some more of those like beachy components, it still is distinctly Australian. So I've loved it. I think the challenges have looked beautiful. The sceneries look beautiful. I'm really, really into them actually having a different location each time. I can't wait to see what they plan on doing next.
Yeah, that's right. And I think you mentioned there that the challenges have been great this season. And Robin, I'm interested to know, what have you thought about these one-on-one challenges so far this season? We saw Sandra and Nina battle it out in Simo at Sea. It's been so great to see.
We know I love a challenge beast. And if you're talking about challenges right now, I'm blown away and I've lost my shit. I lost my absolute shit when Ben held that log snake all by himself. Has there been anything as intense as that in it? Like, has anyone been? All I can remember is Rupert with the barbell and all that weight. I can't think of anything as epic as Ben just holding up this whole log snake while all the team was there. What the hell?
That was 1 versus 8. One player being Benny versus 8 other tribe members. Just ridiculous to see that strength. But I mean, that was all just digging deep and holding on tight. And Harry, this is an interesting challenge. It hasn't been done on Australian Survivor before, I don't think.
Not that I've seen, not this iteration.
Yeah, looking at that challenge, it seems like whoever you, they've done the one with the sandbags above your head. But I think the interesting thing about this one is that whenever someone lets go, and obviously because only one person can hold on to the log at one time, when someone lets go, you obviously feel the force of that weight as well. I feel like it would almost be more difficult than the sandbag challenge because you can't pass on that weight. And when someone drops out, that then makes it a million times more harder for you.
Yeah, I think in itself, it makes a fantastic challenge, particularly if you haven't seen it before. I like that it was a different grip. Like in the All-Star season, we sort of had grips onto drums and that sort of thing, but it felt very different to that. We would sort of pass handles, that sort of thing. This was just straight up gripping onto it, especially once they hit that second phase where it's literally one hand on, just as long as you can go. The only strategy I could see was that being on the end was actually an advantage. You obviously weren't taking the full brunt of everyone else's weight as well. So if they do it again, I think smart teams will just put a strong person on either end. But even that, there were still interesting components because you had, obviously, like you said, like people, if they drop it, you get that force. It's not just that you're adding your weight to them like the sandbags. It's actually that like real force. And if you're gripping it literally forwards, like there's a potential for it to just fling out of your hand. So I thought it was interesting. There's a lot of very subtle components to it. And then Ben just being a monster, just sort of superseded all of that, just saying like, nah, there's 1 versus 8. There's no way I should win, but I'm just winning anyway.
Yeah, that's right. Who other than obviously one of your former castaways unfortunately went home first last week, being Andy, and I suppose we'll bring him up now because you did compete with him. What were your thoughts on his game on this season? Obviously, it was very hard for him to ingratiate himself in the group.
Yeah, I was sad. And like to me, like I've never considered going out day 2 as being a really big detriment, but he also didn't play his cards right, I don't think. There's sort of like, there's a lot of things where you could say, oh, you can't really control that. And honestly, if you're voted out day 2, there's a lot you can't control. It's not enough time to really push the social game. It's a lot of whether you go aggressive and just be that leader that gets people out, or whether you just don't say anything and see if that just keeps the target off your back, which is probably the better strategy. I mean, if you just say nothing, it means that no one has a real reason to go after you, and you're sort of just rolling the dice that 1 in 12 isn't you, which is still reasonable odds compared to putting yourself out there. So I think he made a couple of mistakes, yes, but I don't think you can really take it too much away from him. I think it was more Nina just recognizing that he had that ability to take the reins away from a few other people and just going after him. So I think it's more a testament to Nina being amazing than Andy being bad. But yeah, I feel bad for him.
Yeah, and I think you also need to give credit to Mark for that move as well. And Mark's someone that early in the first episode of this week, we saw him beginning to plot against King Khan, who was obviously emerged as this big player. And I want to know from you, Robin, obviously last week you labelled Mark as your potential winner pick going forward in the game. What have you thought about him pointing the target to Khan at this stage in the game? Is it a good move to strike this early?
Well, I think he's been doing that right from the beginning. I mean, you just talk about Andy and, you know, what he couldn't have, like Mark, when you go to take the leadership role, you gotta, like, again, I don't have that experience that you have, but in my mind, you have to be able to back it up. And when you've got someone who is an SAS bloody commando who literally can do it, and you're trying to outrank someone who's done that as a living, it makes you, in my eyes, look like a weaker leader. So Mark has done that ability to go, it's on you, mate. You take it. And then he does it again, King Khan, and the whole element that he is the king and all this stuff. He's deflecting everything. And he's also, you know, he's doing really good stuff with the challenges, but he's also not doing amazing with the challenges. He's really managing his threat amazingly. So I love him.
I think, Mark has been doing a great job so far. I mean, such a physical threat, and obviously he's going to be kept around for those challenges because, I mean, who can deny how big of a force he is in the challenges? We've seen him come against Michael Crocker, who I grew up watching, just being an absolute brute in the rugby league arena. And Mark's been taking him toe for toe. He's been doing such a great job so far. Harry, what have you thought about Mark, especially as a returning player with, you know, only 3 other returning players on the cast, being Sam, Sandra, and Andy, who's already gone? What have you thought about how he's handled himself so far, especially against Andy, who obviously pushed himself out there, whereas Mark has kind of, you know, taken a little bit of a backseat approach?
Definitely he took things quietly. I think he's slowly pushing himself a little bit up, which can be dangerous, but also means that you're getting ahead of the game a little bit. So I think there's pros and cons to what Mark's doing. He's definitely put himself out there as a potential winner already because he's making the steps to keep all these people in. And he's also making the steps to really, like you said, Robin, he's deflecting that thing. I don't think it's good to immediately get Khan out, but I think it's an amazing idea to be like, look, this guy's dangerous. This guy, like, we need to focus on this, especially if you have someone that's got an idol and you know that they can keep themselves around a bit longer. Then you've got this long-term threat. And if Khan successfully plays an idol, that just makes him an even bigger threat. And then you can get rid of him down the road. So ultimately, if I was targeting Khan, that would be the perfect scenario for me, is he stays a threat and everyone thinks he's a threat, but he stays a little while longer, enough for you to just not have that attention on yourself. So from that regard,
keep him as a shield.
Yeah, I would say, like, all that work he's doing to make Khan seem dangerous is fantastic if you keep him for a while. Because as soon as Khan leaves, if you get rid of him straight away, then there's a power vacuum and they're looking for someone else to target, basically. And it doesn't seem to be like last season. Like this season, people are definitely looking for the leaders, or they're looking for the big groups and seeing if they can just rip that apart straight away, because it's a different dynamic. I mean, if you've got blood versus water and you can get your loved one into jury, that means you automatically have a vote. And then assuming that you have like one person next to you and they have one person next to them, then you've got like 3 jury votes straight away just by having one ally on your tribe. So it's a very different dynamic. It should be more old school, where you just get rid of any enemies, you sort of plot away at that, and then get yourself to the end as sort of like a secondary thing. Like, it's a lot more about getting all your people to jury than ever before.
Yeah, and I think one of the dangerous things about this season and Australian Survivor as a whole, we saw emerging as a big social threat on that blood tribe. And I suppose Sandra and the blood tribe learned the hard way that you got to expect the unexpected in Australian Survivor, because we had a major twist at the tribal council earlier in the week.
Robin's getting upset.
Robin doesn't seem too happy about it. Robin, what do you think about the twist? I must say, I'm not a fan either, but I'd love to hear your thoughts, Robin. You seem very passionate about it.
I'm too passionate about everything. It's not that I'm not a fan of the twist. It's just what is this season 7 of the new rendition of Australian Survivor?
Yes.
We're at season 7, yeah. And I know Sandra probably she's watched, but please, Harry, can you help me out here? Because when I watch from home, I sit there and go, as soon as JLP says, "Hey guys," and they're gonna watch Tribal, something is up, and you got to plan for that something. And nobody ever plans for that potential of we have two non-elimination or non-vote outs. No one plans for it. It bothers me. It bothers me a lot.
I mean, I'd be a hypocrite to really lay the boot in, because I'm guilty of doing that. Saying that, in my scenario, I was more worried about what came after, because it would mean as soon as I lost any of those numbers, then they would be able to split the votes on us, which they did in my season. But you're right. Like, in Australian Survivor, as soon as someone's watching, you should know that there's something up. You should probably go the safe route and just keep it chill. And especially if you have repercussions, which in this season you do, like even straight away, they haven't swapped yet, you have repercussions for everything you do. So the right thing to do was just to get rid of Dave. But that's also boring TV. And they picked the most volatile person in the entire game to slot the one person that would literally just blow everything up. So it's fantastic TV.
Yes.
I think I'm going to keep, if we are going to do any production judgment, I'm only going to do a very short thing. Whether you want me to do that now or...
You go, do it.
Yeah,
let's get some juicy short goss.
This is going to be my only whinge, is that I think that anything that takes away choice or decisions from the players is a bad move by production. I think all you would have to do is you make that non-elimination a choice, and you basically just put a little caveat in there that it's forced to happen if they don't do it. So it's like day 2, put out an advantage that says at any point, instead of it being an idol, you play it before the votes, and whoever gets voted out goes to the other tribe. And then you all of a sudden you have a choice to it. You can do it on yourself. You can do it to someone else. Maybe you want to wreck things over at the other tribe by sending a particular person there. I don't know, but you've got choices. You could even send it over to your loved one, get them to come to your tribe if you feel like it's safe for you to be there as a duo. And then you just put the caveat in it and saying if this is not played, it's automatically going to happen at the 5th tribe or something like that. So at least every single thing is a choice. And that to me as well should be in a whole lot of other things. You've got a blood versus water season. You've got emotional connections going across the tribes. You need more choices. For example, they had the reward where it was cheese and crackers and all that sort of stuff, charcuterie board, whatever you want to call it. They all go over. Instead of that, why not make it a choice where anyone that won the reward can give it up for any one other person to then go and have the reward? Then all of a sudden you've got all these emotional things, someone sacrificing their moment for someone else to have a loved one thing, and you have all these good choices that can then impact the game in a social way. And it's a way that you can actually show social game on television, which is difficult to do. Very often they won't be able to show it because it's too difficult to show the relationships that people have. So I feel like everything in production, you should give choices to the players. Obviously, you can't do that for every single thing, but any opportunity where you can do it without wrecking the game, you should make it a choice, not a black and white thing. And that's my only wish.
I think there's
I like it. I think that's I think that's a great point. And no, I always thought with this season, as much as people like to hate on it, a Redemption Island sort of factor would have been good, especially to add to those extra episodes as well, because it does give you 2 extra vote outs, which would more or less negate the need for non-elimination episodes. And with that, you also have the opportunity for, say Brianna's voted out. The only reason David is there is for Brianna. David can give up his spot in the game, go to Redemption Island, and then Brianna goes in. Or if, let's say, Sam gets voted out, Mark can then go to Redemption Island, try to fight his way back Aussie style. It does give more choice, more decisions in the game. Although, yeah, I didn't hold out hope for that happening. Robin, you can have a whinge now. Give us a whinge about your thoughts on the non-elimination twist.
Oh, look, you know what? The non-elimination, I get it. It's part of Australian Survivor and it's there, and when we talk about it, we learnt from the first bring back, our winner from season 1 was because of the non-elimination. Phoebe would have destroyed her in that moment, but she got saved. It's part of the game. You know what? I don't think it ruins the game as much as, say, let's make you say 3 phrases at the immunity challenge to see if you've got an idol so it can be activated, and forcing, when you talk about choice, US Survivor is now forcing certain moments upon a game, because yes, they make great television, but they make so much better television when the players just do it on their own. So I'm not actually one against I get it. It's part of it. I understand the format. I understand, some people will complain that there's so much Australian Survivor, that we got 3 nights. It's so much to keep up with. That's what we do. That's all our reality TV shows, so I don't mind it. It's just what I mind is we are now at a point where we have players who should be paying attention to that. When something's fishy, cool. I got to backpedal a bit and not screw my own game. And I personally, I know it was probably going to be boring, but I personally would love to see a player going, hang on a second, you're not pulling the wool over my eyes.
Yeah, and I think they were certainly skeptical of the tribal council. I mean, we saw with Amy and Sandra, they discussed it and said, well, look, we've got to be really quiet here, not reveal too much. I think Sam said to David, if you've got anything to say it right here, right now. But, just remaining cautious. But yeah, I think it is important to weigh that balance between your loved ones and consider what's going on. I think it's always become a bit of a trend, which I've noticed, is that it's always on the Sunday night episode where you have a big non-elimination twist or something being thrown into the game. So I feel like every three vote outs, I suppose, every 3 tribals, there might be a consideration to think about it. I'm not sure if, Harry, that's someone you actively thought about in the game. Maybe it was a bit too early on to pick up on the trends. But it's certainly something that's become a common thread across these last, let's say, 4 or 5 seasons at least.
Yeah, we definitely, me and Baden definitely saw it coming in our first season. So we sort of saw that there was too many days and not enough people, and we were just like, okay, there's a non-elimination coming. They won't do it during the final 5, so it's coming very soon. And we pretty much knew it would happen in the next couple of tribals when it started coming, thinking maybe it's a Redemption Island, maybe it's something else. And we kind of started seeing if we could play into that. So we actually made our alliance with Luke and Abby pretty early. It was at, I think, final 8 or something like that. But it didn't play out until we actually got rid of Janine fully after Redemption Island. We just tried to ride that wave and make it look like there was no flipping involved as long as we could.
The choice to get rid of Sophie at this stage of the game, obviously Sandra is the one that led the charge on this vote. Do we think it was the right decision to get rid of Sophie, knowing now that she is on the other tribe with KJ, or was it the best option to get rid of someone like David? David is someone who didn't have any relationships on the other tribe. Do we think Sophie was the right person to choose in this point of the game?
Well, are we assuming, if you're assuming that they're going to get voted out, then yes, I think it's a fantastic move.
Yeah.
Because like I said, I think if it's a regular season and you don't have all these connections, then it kind of matters a little bit less. Like, it's like whatever. But every single person, like, if you can break up their duo, they become an open jury vote. So I would get rid of a bunch of them, try to keep your own ones to jury, because you're just really benefiting yourself. So Sandra going after someone that was in the middle of that group and also not really heavily affecting their challenge ability. Hi, Jenny K. If you're not negatively affecting the challenge ability, like, go after that, break it up, because then all of a sudden you've got more time with them. And the next day, she immediately gravitated towards the people who were on the bottom, and it paid dividends again because they wanted to flip back. So, yeah, she's done the right thing. I don't know if it's too aggressive to start with, because these are the sorts of things I would start more and more in the mid game if it's a normal season. But she's making it work. She's getting rid of people. If Sophie had gone home, she's immediately got KJ as someone on the other side that is just an independent voter now.
Yeah, I think you mentioned there that you'd make those moves mid-game. I think what we've seen since All-Stars is people are playing a lot more aggressive earlier in the game. And what we had prior, where, Pierre won in your season, Shane Gould won in Champions First Contenders, Christie won 2016. These players that, didn't emerge until the late game. What we've seen more recently is obviously David and Haley emerging very early, making big moves in the pre-merge. I almost think the evolution of strategy within Australian Survivor has shifted, where a lot of players are playing very heavy, very early. I'm not sure if that's because they want to be like a King George and be on TV early on, become this big name, or if it's just because, everyone is wanting to play aggressive and wanting to, make big moves. Now that the game is shortened by 7 days from what it initially was back in the day, it does seem like people are playing very aggressive very early on. Robin, would you play this aggressive early on, or would you sit back? Where would you stand? I mean, because Sandra seems to be sitting back in the moment.
Well, yeah. See, I feel like I'd line up with Harry here. The aggressive play works more for a shorter season like America, but we're here for too long. That said, with Sandra playing such short seasons her whole time, she knows it's a long slog. But I think she has no other choice, to be honest. With who she is, she has to do something, and she has to keep. I think what she's kind of doing is keeping everybody on their toes. These people are breaking up. We don't want that to happen. And then the people who are actually relatively new and don't know the game or haven't watched many seasons, they will listen to her and sure, oh my God, there's 4 of them together. Let's break them up. Sophie's ahead. Cool. And that goes that way. And then now we do the other thing. Someone who was with her was Amy in that vote. All of a sudden, Amy's teeing up with Dave and Jay, 3 people. But meanwhile, Sandra, is it Mel? Is it Mel there? Or who's it?
Yes.
So Mel and Michelle.
No, Michelle is on Sandra's tribe. Michelle is on Sandra's.
Cool. So it's Sandra, Michelle, and Sam. Really, they are floating around as a 3. But Sandra is this loose pin that then goes in and takes in the boys, takes in the alphas, which she mentioned early on. She wanted the alphas. I think she has to keep the game, the balls just juggling, and make sure people don't sit down and stop thinking, hang on a second, we really need to stop listening to Sandra. I don't know.
I think the real thing that just showed how experienced she is as well is that she went immediately to the people that had been like wronged or blindsided or however you want to call it. Like, that is key. Like, if you have a play survivor, that's what you should be doing. You blindside them, and then all of their friends, you go straight to them. You see if you can mend it a little bit so that if you need them for anything, they're there, and they don't just think you're just coming up to them because you need something. Like, if you do it immediately, then they feel like, oh, okay, like they still like me. Maybe they just didn't like the other person. Like, so it's fine. And she's like literally like giving them advice the next day. She's like, you should do this. Like, if you want to win, like you should do this. And like, that's fantastic gameplay. I think, like, to be honest as well, I think for right now, depending on what people are with her, like she has a little bit of a shield, because it's like, if I was with her, I wouldn't want to get rid of her yet. Because it's the same deal as like Mark and Kant. Like, you don't really want to get rid of them yet. They're like a get out of jail free card. If you get to, I don't know, 11, 10, and you just like, you're feeling a little bit of heat, people are coming for you. You're just like, hey, look, it's Sandra. She's won twice. She's an amazing player. Like, maybe let's get rid of her now. And she's not going to be able to defend herself unless she has an idol. She won't win the challenges, not against some of these players.
No, not an Australian challenge either.
Yeah, no, I think you meant the Australian challenges. They really have, as we mentioned earlier, been a cut above. And what we saw in, I think it was episode 5, we got the Sumo at Sea challenge again, a great challenge, which you've seen many times in US Survivor. That iconic moment, Harry, I hope you remember, heroes versus villains, Rupert and Coach going at it. Coach getting in trouble for karate chopping against Rupert, the old pirate. I think it's, as I said before, it being a blood versus water season, JLP is getting so excited when he's seeing people like Josh and Jordan going against each other, or Jesse and Geordie, right? There's too many J names on this season. It's so great to see, Nina and Sandra come up against each other, all these one-on-one matchups, going at each other, and it's what's at stake. You have to grapple with the idea of voting out your mum, or bringing them along playing nice. It's a hard balancing act to show, and that aggressiveness in these challenges, it's been so entertaining so far.
Yeah, I would feel weird, to be honest, like fighting, like actually wrestling your mum or your daughter. Like,
yeah,
I would feel weird, I think, because it's like you've got all that aggression. You've got, like, when you go out and do these challenges, because like literally in all my time, there's only ever been one challenge where they actually let you have like a little go first, and that's because it was so hard. It was so difficult. So all the other challenges, you have no idea how to really do it properly until you get on there, and you're so G'd up. So like to have that feeling and then be like, all right, now fight your mum, and you're just like, oh, okay. Like, I don't know how I'd feel. Like, it'd be a bit different, like playing with them or voting them out. But because Australia, they're like, now fight each other, or like do this aggressive thing, like,
battle to the death.
Yeah, that's weird to me. Yeah, so I don't know how I feel about that. Like, I like the Australian Survivor is really difficult, but yeah, it sets a weird dynamic here.
Let's say that your loved one was Grayson Waller from WWE. How would you go against him? Would you just give up?
Depends on which challenge. I've wrestled against him in Sydney. But saying that now, he's put on a good 15 kilos, I think. So he'd be in mighty shape. Like, I don't think I'd have the weight advantage on him anymore. So at this point, I think he'd beat me up, to be honest. Like, he's got a lot of training under his belt in real fighting, and I think he'd kick my ass, to be honest with you.
Might have to leave it to Mark. Even Mark would be embarrassed by that. Mark and Croc will get smashed as well, I'm sure. He's doing a great job, I must say.
Do you guys know how heavy they are? I have no idea how big they are, but they look massive.
Michael Crocker, back in the day, I would say he was 90 kilos when he was playing. So I don't think he's up to 100. But Mark as well is massive. Mark is pure muscle though. He's he is just built out of stone.
Yeah, I look at some of these dudes, and like, I don't know if you guys saw the drop for the American Survivor today, but like, I looked at that, and my first thought was like, if they played Australian Survivor, people like Mark would kill them.
Yeah, that'd be snap. We'd have so many medical emergencies.
It's such a different beast now. Like, it is completely different beast, and it's very impressive to see some of these people, like obviously Sandra and Nina, stand out as like people that are adapting to it. And I think maybe we'll see that in future, people just really adapting as we get a sort of like history to our game.
Yeah, I mean, that, I suppose that brings us to a segue where I wanted to ask you this later on, but I'll ask it right now. Sandra playing on this season of Blood vs. Water, if there was one US Survivor other than Russell or Sandra that you were to play against, who would you want to play against? And let's not pick Nick Wilson. Let's leave him aside and then see what else we got.
I don't know, because it's like, are you saying that I get to team up with them, or are they going to be the person that I wrestle? You can team up with them
or vote them out, whatever you want to do. It's
like, because
you just get to see one player across the map.
If it's like, who I want to wrestle, I'm just going to pick someone like David or something like that, someone small that I can beat up. If it's someone to play with, I don't know. There's a lot of people that I find fun. I think that would be the only thing I care about. To be honest, like, my bucket list for Survivor is pretty small now. So it would more just be, who am I going to have the most fun with? So you've got your obvious ones like Tony, but then if you look a little bit harder, I think personally I would get on with Ben very, very well. So I'm gonna throw his name out there. There's a couple of the women as well. Sarah Lucina, I think I would get on with really well. I don't know who else would play. Andrea,
all the winners, all the targets.
Yeah. Well, but lots of them are very sociable and very fun. So I think they'd have good stories. That's all I really care about is who am I going to have a good time with.
Yeah, I think one person that certainly got a lot of love in episode 5 at least was Ben. We did discuss this earlier. Him single-handedly winning the challenge, quite literally single-handedly winning the challenge for the Blood Tribe there. Really just a miraculous effort, and it did take water to Tribal Council yet again. And Sophie appeared to be the one who was really on the target right there. She was on the chopping block, ready to be voted out. Obviously, we had that mixture there of Alex also being injured as well. From your point of view, though, guys, obviously Sophie being voted to the other tribe, she has bad blood with the other tribe. Again, we mentioned this before. Do we want to get rid of Sophie this early compared to someone like David? Do we want to get rid of Sophie now, knowing that she could come after our loved ones, could build something against her? And also, as well, having a relationship with KJ, was it the right to point the target towards her?
100%. 100%. Like, there is no other better option. Like, all right, she's already been voted out. So you know that at least the majority don't care about her on the other side. KJ has already expressed that she's worried about Sophie impacting her game. So she might not be that against it because it's going to benefit her potentially. And everyone will be like, no, listen, like you're with us. Like you're one of us. And you can immediately do that. 3, you're like I said, you're creating that individual voter and you have the drop on the other team because this is now an individual voter that's been with you. She hasn't met any of them. Like she hasn't met a single, like obviously excluding like a few of the family things. She hasn't met a whole lot of other people. And this is the sort of stuff where it gets back to that old school dynamic. Like you've got people in All Stars in my season where it's like, I didn't meet them until 30 days in. And because my tribe was the one that was always losing people, I had less and less people going into that final part of the game. And people like David, people like Sean, they've set themselves up with a majority that they've played with. So Sean had like a huge amount of people that she'd played with. Like you got social connections everywhere. David obviously spent a whole month with people that I don't have. So the same thing can happen here. If you get a good tribe swap, you can have all this time with an individual, get them on your side. Like I said, if you can protect your loved one, that's an automatic vote as well. So if I'm that blue tribe, I'm getting rid of Sophie and then immediately being best friends with KJ because she's a free vote.
Yeah, no, and it has been a trend whereby the pairs have basically been going home one by one. In pairs, which is something we haven't really seen in prior seasons in the US, season 27 and 29. Alex obviously goes home in episode 5 due to his back spasm injury. I must say, though, to Alex's credit, he really pitched in. He dug deep in that immunity challenge. I think it was him and Sophie that were the last ones standing, and then Sophie dropped out after Alex dropped out. He really did a great job. Robin, what are your thoughts on Alex? And just the amount of effort he put in, obviously carrying that back spasm since the first immunity challenge,
day
I believe.
Day 1 or something. It was like,
day one. Yeah, it was very early on in the game. He carried it all the way through. Such courageous effort there.
There isn't a very embarrassing video of me on the internet crying my eyes out in season 1 when that first guy quit because I was so upset that he took my spot because I got close that season and then I'm like, it quit. And I wasn't sure if we were going to get another season. So I get really upset with quitters. I do. However, man, he tried. I have that he tried and he did the best he could do. And you know what? That log challenge, he wasn't the first out. He put in, man, he did so well and he went as far as his body could take him. And you know, if you haven't, like, I can turn my head properly this way and I want to cry as it is. I wouldn't survive with a back spasm. So he did amazing. So I don't really have any problem there. I do not know if I totally agree with getting rid of Sophie straight away there, though. I feel like even though her sister's there, Sophie is like an Abby Marie. She's a bit of a wild card, and she can kill her game in seconds. So I feel like sometimes that's also a shield as well, but maybe you can when someone's when people want to get someone out so much, then there's room to move and do other. There's potential room to create something else. So I think I would have kept Sophie a little bit longer. I mean, she's here, so.
Yeah, I think it's predicament though, because obviously Sophie is the biggest target. But then I think the plan was going into tribal council, put the votes on Khan and also split them with Sophie. No, I think it was Khan Shay split with Sophie in the minority, I believe. Force Khan and Shay to play their idols. And I think that's the way. I think that's the way to go. I do want to welcome Harry Wiggins into the chat as well. Harry Hills. Harry wins from Survivor South Africa season 4 Maldives. A great friend of the podcast as well. Also welcoming in Harry. Fleetfoot Masters here is a big fan of Harry the Ice Cream Guy. Big Buff Guy 95 has said, Sandra is a great shield who can't win individual challenges. She's also a loyal alliance member as long as you don't give her a reason to distrust you. I would work with her as long as possible. And Harry, I take it you would also work with Sandra, given the chance. I mean, purely for the entertainment factor, right? You've got to do it as a massive fan of the show.
Yeah, I think Sandra is an interesting one where she seems to change her mind about things and she has her own decision process and you can't really influence that. I think it's very difficult for people to actually influence her thought process. I think we've seen it happen like once with Denise actually influencing her. And then other than that, it's like Sandra decides what Sandra wants to do. So in that way, she's dangerous because you don't quite know. But if you're on side with her and you just treat it like a very logical thing, you're just like, hey, this is just going to be a straight up logical thing, no emotion. You could probably stay in the good books.
Yeah, I think she's a good shield to have alongside you. But yeah, as you say, I mean, we saw with Amy in this last episode as well, which we'll discuss now, I suppose. Amy finding the idol, and then Michelle coming to Sandra. Obviously, Sandra is really the nucleus of information. That's what you want in the game. It's the position you want in the game is for everyone to become with you, with information toward you. Sandra and Amy obviously worked on that Sophie vote together. Sandra let Amy take all the heat for that and tell everyone to take the heat off herself. And then in the next episode, she's stabbing Amy in the back just to get rid of that idol. I think it does show that Sandra is a ruthless player. She's willing to make moves when she wants. And what we've seen with her, and I would say it's the same with this Michelle move, while Sandra did bring in the likes of Croc and the other alpha males, she did let Michelle take a lot of the heat, I think, for that vote, because Michelle was ultimately the one that really spilled the beans on where the idol was. And I think Sandra's playing a good job in keeping the target away from herself by shifting on to others and, saying the plan is someone else's plan at this point.
I wouldn't say she's loyal. I'd never say she's loyal. For someone in Pearl Islands, she was very loyal to Rupert. She definitely was. But since then, I would call when someone's plan is as long as it isn't me, there's no way I would call her loyal. However, I feel like I would love to work with her because within that, Sandra does what Sandra does best, like you said, Harry. And I feel like if you have watched enough, I feel like that's workable to ride. I'd ride that coattail pretty far until I'm ready to cut her off, I think.
Yeah, you just have to be very careful about exactly when you do it. Yeah. Because if you give a whiff of it, she's not going to be she's not going to be keen on that.
No.
Robin, can I ask you a question? Yeah. What do you have in your hands?
Rubik's Cube. Sorry. I'll put it away.
How are you a Rubik's Cube man yourself?
At least you solved it. Yeah. Or did you already have it solved?
Okay. So here's the thing. I've been working on this for around 5 years. I was able to get these 2 layers and 2 pieces away. And literally last week, I said, you know what? I can't do it. I'm going to learn from YouTube how to do the top layer. I'll be honest. I cheated. I got most of the way by myself, but I needed a little help. And that's okay.
That's fine. It is just a scientific thing, isn't it? It's just a process, a very specific set of.
There are ways that some people do it in if no matter what you do and you don't look at it, you can complete it. I don't do it that way. I still have to look at where things need to be moved. I like it more like a puzzle I think. So I see it, I'm like, oh, I got to move this here and that there. Whereas there is a pattern that you just do it.
You just go like that, and it's like,
yeah, that's boring.
One thing that has been lacking from this season is actually the puzzles. Now that we're on the topic of Rubik's cubes and puzzles,
every season, every Australian season,
really all we've seen in terms of puzzles this year has just been spelling out blood and water, which is what we saw in episode 4, I think. It's a bit disappointing to me. I mean, I'm a big puzzle guy. That would be my strength in the challenge, is be completing all those puzzles, the word puzzles especially. It'd be really nice to see. While I love the physical element, these matchups, 1 versus 1, blood versus water, I would really love to see more unique word puzzles that aren't just spelling out blood and water. More puzzles at this stage in the game, especially when it's early on in the game. I feel like you can have that obstacle course and then finish with the puzzle challenge. I know it's frowned upon in the US, but I feel like it's something we don't see too much in Australian Survivor. I really feel like that puzzle element is missing from this season. What are your thoughts on that, Harry? You're a puzzle guy, right?
No, I'm actually not. people all that. I have to solve a misconception. People think that snakes or cockroaches or whatever you want to call it are all going to be puzzle people, and it's like, we are not. I'm not a puzzle person at all. People are like, oh, he talks lots and he's sneaky, so he must be good at puzzles. Doing all the sneaking stuff is to cheat, so I don't have to work very hard at the real stuff. So no, I'm actually not a puzzle guy. I went into both games. Went into the first game weighing about 105 kilos and was there to wrestle people and hold up stuff. So I was very okay with all that coming up. Saying that, puzzles are fun, and I do think it's fair to include them in most rounds. I think that one of them was really interesting because it seemed more like dexterity, the one that was over their heads, because that actually takes teamwork to build it. Yeah. So that was really cool.
That was cool.
Yeah, that was less of a puzzle, more of dexterity exercise, which I think is cool.
There was seesaw as well.
Yeah. So it's you've got some cool things. I think that straight up puzzles need to be in there as well, because you've got all these different things, and you've got people being given an opportunity to be smart in a street savvy way, and that's sort of more me. If you can find a way to cheat at something, basically, there should be things that give you that opportunity. When we were playing Survivor, if you don't get called out on something, you just keep doing it. If you cheat and they don't call you out, then it's fine. You just keep going. And I've seen that countless times. I've seen when I was on a bench, I think I remember Abby losing her shit because the other team was cheating. And I was just if they're not getting called out on it, then they can do whatever they want. Yes, pretty much once you go out there, you should always cheat at every challenge. You should break all the rules. They'll yell at you. And they'll yell at you to stop, and then you have to stop. Otherwise, they'll punish you. But until they do that, just keep cheating. Always cheat at everything. Even if you're the good guy, because it won't matter. Winning matters, not people yelling at you or telling you off.
Well, I feel that recent South African season, Chappies was done quite a bit for his cheating.
Always just you should do it unless you get called out by the people. Do it. You should always take any advantage you can get.
That said, though, over the course of these Australian seasons, I feel like you see the Aussies really try and find the advantage or find the quickest way to do a challenge. There's been that classic challenge with the poles, and you have to put the poles and step across. And then I don't know which Australian season it was. It might have been one of yours, but people just carried the whole one pole. They didn't use any of the other poles. Just sit on it and carry it across. It was we've been breaking challenges, and even Sam and Shay, when they had to go head to head for the rugby ball, they just went around. So there are little advantages, little cheats that you can,
Yeah, but I think that's cool. I think that you players being smart should be rewarded, and it doesn't necessarily just have to be just down the line smarts. It should be, if they can find a way to break your challenge, then good on them. Well done to them for sort of doing it. And we've seen it in American Survivor as well. People are oh yeah, memorize this puzzle. And it's okay, well done. You put the effort in, and if you've done that, then that's part of it, because everything is still a double-edged sword. Everything is always a double-edged sword. If you cheat in Survivor, some people are not going to like it. Other people will like it. If you memorize a puzzle and do it in 4 seconds and then tell everyone that you did that, then people are going to target you. So everything is all gravy with me when it comes to that, because it's like it's always a double-edged sword anyway, and just makes it interesting.
Yeah. I think look, this most recent episode's reward challenge, it was very brutal. Obviously, once again, players tackling other castaways. We got that matchup between Croc and Mark, I think it was, the two heavyweights, all just for a sandwich, as Jonathan said. And I want to know from you, Harry, is it really worth it, putting your body on the line, all this exertion, all for a sandwich?
On day 7.
Day 17.
Not really.
17. Sorry, I exaggerate a little.
Like I said, sometimes you get G'd up and you really just want to go for it. And sometimes in that, I would have the mindset where I'm just G'd up. And other days I would have the mindset where I'm like, I don't really care. Like, especially like for rewards, it was always like that. Like I remember in All Stars, there was one where it was like for coffee or something like that. And I was like, I don't really care. Like if they let us just stay back at camp, I probably would have like just hung out instead. But then saying that was one of my favorite nights ever, because everyone got super hyperactive. And I don't think they showed it. I don't remember if they showed it. We all got super hyperactive, and it was like one of the moons where all the crabs come in. So they were like all like nipping at people's feet, and they're like big crabs when they follow the moon for something, and they're like massive crabs like that. Everyone's hyperactive, trying to like murder them in the dark. That was like the best night ever. So I guess in a way, like you don't really know what to expect. Like I've gone into tons of things where I just didn't care about rewards, but maybe you feel something after. So maybe it was like that for this with the sandwiches. Maybe it's a bonding experience. I don't know.
Yeah. What about an ice cream reward? Would that be worth playing?
Well, I won.
Harry actually.
Flynn's asking you, what's your go-to ice cream?
It's actually gelati. Harry, it's a truth bomb. I'm going to break it now. Harry's go-to is gelati.
What? No. What's wrong with you? What, dude? What's the truth bomb? I'm here. I can count out your facts immediately.
Okay,
so
yeah, it's not.
But I don't hate gelato though. Gelato's fine. I actually had good gelato last night. All right, go to that like would be anything is vanilla or mint choc chip. Like as in you just can get it everywhere. Mint choc chip, especially if it's done well, is insanely good. And then favorite flavor of all time is chai latte, which you can't get everywhere. But if it's done well, chai latte is like the best flavor ever. Any tea or coffee flavors, if they do them properly, by default, like it's already a milky thing. Like they're all amazing. So if you can ever try like Thai tea ice cream or chai or any tea variety, is always going to be good.
No, that's.
Have you been experimenting with any new flavors you've been experimenting with lately?
Not at the moment. The big thing in Perth is oat milk ice cream, which is the only one that's doing right now. And that was one of my ideas. So oat milk ice cream is fantastic. What other ideas? I don't have any I want to blast out on public internet right now. I want to save them for myself. No, if you're in another state and you want an idea to make your ice cream shop go well, just use coffee or tea and just blast the flavor. Like especially gelato, just pack it in, like because everyone wants more sugar, more flavor.
Wait, a tea flavored gelato? I'm gonna rage quit this stream. This is ridiculous.
Tea as in like
gelato.
Yeah, any tea. Like you can go black tea, you can go green.
No, not listening. No, not listening to it.
As if you haven't seen matcha ice cream before.
I have, but I don't drink tea. So
okay, you should try.
And you're ruining gelato. You're ruining gelato if you make it.
What's the best?
Lemon.
The best gelato flavor? Lemon. That's a sorbet. That's not a gelato.
Lemon's a sorbet.
Passion fruit.
It's a sorbet.
God, get out of it. I don't know my gelatos and ice creams and sorbets. They're all the same thing.
They're all cold, right?
They all taste good. I think that's all that matters. They all taste good. That's yeah. Look, I'd love to have this discussion with Sandra and see what she thought about this. I'm sure she'd have ice cream wars. We saw her have Sugar Wars in the past. We did mention before, obviously, Amy finding an idol, Michelle telling Sandra about that. Sandra really making great moves early on in this game, pinning the votes on Amy, as we discussed before, discussing with Croc and the Alpha Males a plan to flush out that idol, creating those good relationships, splitting the vote, though, between Jay and Amy, putting the majority of votes on Jay and only 3 on Amy. Harry, I'm interested to know, what are your thoughts on this? Robin and I had a discussion about this pre-stream, and I was starting to think, well, Khan being one of the bigger players, everyone knows he has an idol, because I think David actually dobbed Khan in about having an idol. I think it was probably a better idea to get rid of Jay over someone like an Amy, just in case she doesn't play her idol. It could cause, bad repercussions. Do you think it was the good idea to put the votes on Jay, or what would you have done there?
I don't know. To be honest, it really depends on the social dynamics and whether, which person you think you can pull in easier. So it's not an easy call because, if everything goes to plan and you've got 7 people, then you're kind of just winning either way. They've got 3, you've got 7. You can flip it any way you want and they can't win with one idol. Saying that, you're right. If she chooses to just do the ballsy thing, not play her idol, Jay goes home, she can just protect herself on the next one. Saying that, there's still more people to be voted out that are expendable. There's still another person. So on the next one, they could just give her more of the votes if that's what they're feeling. But she does have power to flip it back if she keeps the idol. I don't know. There's a lot of pros and cons, and it's a little bit silly to try to judge it too hard, because everything will sort of be dictated by what actually happens. And you can sort of use revisionist history and be like, oh, this was bad because all of this happens. And it's well, you can't really tell what's going to come out of that. I probably would have got rid of Jay. It's just an easy vote. You can get rid of him. And if you've already got a pre-working relationship with Amy, you can kind of flip it and be well, I was just a little bit scared of your relationship because I thought we had a thing, and you can maybe potentially bring it back. I guess we'll see. Yeah, Robin's thinking there. Robin's thinking.
Jay, I'm going to bring up a confessional count here. Jay got no confessionals at all in the game. Harry, I know one of your closest allies on your first season, Sam, she also faced a similar fate. I'm sure we've discussed this in the past, probably last season on Brains vs. Brawn. But the confessionals, there's some people that really aren't getting much content at all. Mel is someone who still hasn't had a confessional. Jay, obviously, no confessionals throughout the whole game. And yet Sandra almost has as many as she had in Heroes vs. Villains in the whole season.
Yeah,
what are your thoughts? What are your thoughts on the mix? It's stupid.
Yeah, it's stupid. Look, I get why they do it. It's a different beast. They're very into their major characters and minor characters sort of thing in Australian editing. It also makes it quite difficult to see a winner coming for a lot of people. Obviously, the hardcore can kind of guess it, but it makes it more difficult. But it's just, I think in a way, it's stupid because you're not really doing a service to the players that playing for you. They've put a lot on the line going out there. They're risking their physical health. They're risking their mental health. They've gone out and they've played hard. They deserve, at the very least, to go home and be able to watch a bit of themselves, see their highlights, that sort of thing. Everyone deserves that. And so I think to take that away is not right. And I felt that for Sammy. I felt bad at the time. It is pretty shitty to think that we have this relationship and they literally didn't show up. And it's the sort of thing you tell your friends about. It's I had this amazing friend, met all these people, and then they're oh, well, where is it? I can't see that you have a friendship.
Yeah.
And so it's that times a million when you're the actual player, I'm assuming, because I've been very fortunate, so I can't really speak for them, but I'm assuming it's that times a million when you're watching and your family doesn't even get to see you. So I feel bad for Jay. I feel bad for Mel and Michelle. I've literally talked to Mel, and she's a lovely person. So I feel bad that that they kind of don't get to share that with the other people in their lives, because that's a big part of it as well. It's in the game and after the game, they're both important things,
and you don't know, yeah, until that show airs, and you're like,
Yeah.
wow, I got nothing. I've been on the cutting room floor. That's it. Oh, that sucks, because you're doing all the confessionals there like everyone else.
Yeah, everyone is. And so it's like it sucks because it's like you've spent hours getting like a sore ass, like sitting on the dirt doing confessionals for nothing, basically. And like on top of that, it's like you have moments that are special to you that no one will ever get to see. And it's like, and me being selfish, that happened to me as well during those first couple of weeks when like Sammy got cut and Casey got cut and all this other stuff, that like that stuff was important to me as well. Like I had a whole alliance that just never got shown, like it never made the thing.
Yeah.
And so it's like you feel bad that like there's some people where it's like that for every single thing they do. Like it's like, oh, I had a great day on this day. You don't get to see it. So I think simply from that perspective, I don't like it. I think from a TV production perspective, it's fine. Like it's a different thing to America, but they're very into their major characters because you get bigger moments, and that's what they're going for, is more like epic. Like that's the word that Australians
and the ads and
that's all they want. They want it to be epic. And in a lot of ways it is, because you make these major characters where if they fall, it's a bigger deal because you've spent the entire season giving them 1 million minutes. But I think it's unfair to people. I don't think anyone should be cut out, even if they are boring. Let's say hypothetical, some of these players are boring. I still don't think they should be cut out. I think they would still have something in there that's a special.
Just give them something on their final episode at least.
Yes,
just one. Yeah, at least one confessional. Chuck it on their show reel. I don't know how it works for reality TV.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how much money they would get off extras, but surely 10 play, like the amount that 10 players got to now in terms of streams, surely some of the extras could make them money if they put them up.
This is something interesting I saw. So I was looking at the ratings. I believe the actual overnight ratings were at about 640,000 for the premiere. And the actual streaming ratings, after the streaming ratings on 10 player were counted in Australia alone, I think it reached over 1 million viewers. So that'd be around 450,000 people
400.
watching on 10 player alone. ALOLM is obviously ALOLM is overseas. So you have fans not only in Australia but around the world, and that's the same. There's lots of people now watching Australian Survivor overseas, especially in the US with Sandra involved. I know that I've seen that Cara and George have said there's a lot of fans watching Brains vs. Brawn from in Africa as well. All sorts of different countries over there. Obviously, the South African audience, the New Zealand audience. It is a big production. It's a big show, and it's going places at the moment. It's really great to see Australian Survivor grow.
Yeah, it's fantastic, and just the fact that it might survive, like, it's important to me, because it's like I really like Survivor. I watch South Africa and US as well, and it's just nice to have them all last and make more seasons, because those seasons will be there forever. Like once they're made, like they're there forever. Everyone gets to enjoy them in their own time. So it's just nice to see them all succeeding and doing different things as well, which I personally think is cool. I like the Australian format of being like epic. I like the South African, like very down the line sort of approach, and then the US is sort of like trying to be the new age thing. So you've got different things for everything, which I think is fantastic. It's like a buffet, and you can just pick whatever you want.
Yeah, I do want to bring up here 5 castaways down, which means there's 19 castaways to go. Last week we picked 3 players who we think have the potential to win, and 3 other players who are in a good position right now. I might narrow it down to 1 winner pick and then 2 other players who you think are in a good position at the moment. I'll give you a bit of time to think about that, Harry, but I'll start with you, Robin. You said Mark is still your winner pick?
I need time. No, yeah.
I can go straight away.
No. Yeah, you go straight. No, Mark's my winner pick. We'll lock him in.
Yeah. Harry?
For sure.
To do something different, I'm going to say Shayo.
You stole my winner pick. Last week I said Shayo would be my winner pick as well. I think
too bad.
I think with Shay, she's playing she's playing a very
you can't choose her. You can't choose it.
You can go for it. She's playing a very social game, which is great to see. And we did see that scene with her leading the yoga last week. I think she's in a good position. Who else are you thinking at the moment, Harry, other than Shael? Any other players that are getting your eye at the moment?
Mark's the obvious one, but also I'm going to say I'm not going to go with him just because Robin's already taken him. I'm going to pick two others. Robin's got him in the sweep. So I'm going to pick Nina and Jordan.
Okay. Why Jordan?
Are you talking Edgic or whatever? Like, I think if you're looking at the game straight up, he is on the bottom but still liked by everyone, which means that if he can get to a swap, which I'm assuming is next week, then he's going to be probably fine. He's strong, he's likable, he's got his loved one still there. So I think if he gets a fair go at it, I think he'll be fine, and I think he's going to have a lot of people that would potentially vote for him at the end if he makes it there. Because, I mean, from here, assuming he makes it to the end, he will have, made enough moves probably, unless he's ridden coattails the entire time. So I think he's, from here, it's still just beginning. You still have a fair shot to get to the end for a lot of these people, and I don't think his edit's been horrible either. I think he's got a fine edit.
I think he's got 3 confessionals or something, but you're right. Sandra did come straight to him and Croc for that last vote, getting out Jay. Robin, who were your two other players who you think could go well?
I'm going to go a complete backflip from last week. I reckon Dave is just the person who will just float near. Probably won't make to the end, but I feel like Dave has now become a pointless cast member, and you just take along. Not pointless is a bit harsh, but you just take him along. He doesn't have the ties. He becomes a number. If he gets split from Sandra and he loses the heat from Sandra, I think he can just kind of drift deep in the game, which was complete opposite from me last week. I thought he had really shot himself in the foot.
I think people are just fine with him staying right now. I don't think anyone will have him on their radar for a really long time now.
Yeah, and as we enter the swap, which we did say will be next week, I think Dave is going to be a key number, especially when some of these pairs start to come together, which no doubt we'll see. 2 or 3 pairs on the same tribe, possibly.
Need a swing.
It'll be interesting to get these singles together.
Yeah. What about you, Riley? What's your other one?
Last week I said I said Croc last week. I think Croc is playing a good game. He seems to have a knowledge of the game, and obviously doing my own challenges. We've seen there that Sandra came straight back to him. You know what? I'll pick Sandra as my other person at the moment. I think she's playing a great game. I'm not sure she can win the whole game. I see her going to the final 10, maybe even up to the final 6. Who knows? Depends on what advantage she gets.
She's a good person to boot at 7.
Yeah, she's playing.
And I think, go.
Yeah, she's playing a very safe game at the moment, but she is in good graces with everyone. And I feel like even after the last episode, Amy isn't going to be too peeved by Sandra, I don't think. I think she's in a good enough position where she has good social relationships. She has good standing on her tribe, that she can go deep in the game. Really, the only person I see going against her at this point is David. But even then, in the last episode, she basically saved David as well.
I think what we were saying just pre-stream as well. I think Sandra, I hope she makes merge. That'd be beautiful. But I really think Nina will be the one who is part of her axing Sandra. I think that would be really important for Nina to catapult herself to that final last leg of the game, the end game.
She voted out her mum. Wouldn't it be great to see another Sierra Eastern moment?
Ultimately, it is good for her. If they can get there together, she gets Sandra's vote at the end, and she might get other people's vote for making the big move of voting out her mum. I reckon it is possible for her to win, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Would an Australian jury vote for an American to win, though?
I would.
Yeah, depending on the people. There's a lot of actual Survivor fans this time. I think they did a bit of a turnaround since last season because there was a little bit too much of a non-fan thing going on, and I think they've sort of flipped it back the other way. I like the amount of non-fans they have because you want to sprinkle them in because it causes more randomness. It causes more chaos, but you don't want enough of them that they just play a very static style. Like you just lose that fluidity. If you go too much either way, too game body, too Survivor super fan one way, or if you go too far the non-fan, then you just end up with super static production. And I think that they've done it very, very well this time.
Yeah, I want to see how tuned in you are, Harry, because last week we had Peridium on the podcast and I asked him to guess who was coming on next week. And he guessed you straight away without question.
Really?
I want to see, I'm going to give you one hint and I'm going to see how well you can guess who the next week's guest is going to be, all right?
Is it like a good clue that you're going to give, or is it going to be something?
I thought you were about to say, is it a good guess?
I'll give a pretty generous clue. I will give you a pretty generous clue. I will say.
Go hard first. Go hard first.
I will say they are a brawny super fan.
Brawny super fan.
Could give you
I'm
a
going to
hint
say
what
Simon.
from. 2 from 2 for guests so far. We're doing well, and let's hope Simon guesses week 4 correctly as well. Simon and me will be on the podcast next week discussing episodes 7 to 9 with us. Harry, we were discussing ice cream and gelato before, unfortunately. But your ice creamery is
sorbet.
So much gelato and sorbet hate in this chat room.
Let's give Cold Creamery a shout out. Where can we find Cold Creamery?
Yeah, if you're in Perth, go to Cold Creamery. It's Fremantle on Essex Street or Mount Lawley on Beaufort Street. Or if you want to talk to me, tag me. I think that's what it is on Twitter. I don't know what the correct word for that actually. Tweet at me. Tweet at me on Twitter. You can probably find me by typing in Harry the Ice Cream Guy.
Perfect. And what's on offer in the shop at the moment?
Oof. I don't know, actually. There's a lot of flavors. It turns over fast in summer. It turns over fast. You just have to rock up and find out because the stores are different. We always have random stuff going in.
Yeah.
Lots of
Get some oat milk ice cream, you reckon?
Mm-hmm. Definitely grab the oat milk one. It's a winner.
Or some chai latte.
Or chai latte, if they have it. They definitely have it sometimes.
Yeah. All right.
No sorbet allowed.
Oh, this breaks my heart.
No sorbet.
Never.
If you want sorbet, go down the street.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot, Riley.
All right.
Thanks a lot, Robin.
Nice
We'll leave it there, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. And as always, we'll see you next week to discuss even more Australian Survivor Blood vs. Water. It's already hard to believe that we're 2 weeks in, and we've got a swap coming up very soon. It's going to be another entertaining week, I'm sure. Adios, mates, and we'll see you next week.
See yous.
Bye.